Hello everyone, it's time again for your Tailies with Folktale with Shafai. Now let's dive in. In the green rolling hills of Uganda, where the sun kissed the grasslands good morning, lay the village of Bweyale. Life here flowed like the nearby river, calm and predictable. Children's laughter mixed with the lowing of cows as they fetched water, their small feet padding along the well-worn paths. But within this peaceful rhythm, a discordant note was played by a man named Kato. Kato was a man carved from pride itself. He was strong, tall, and always draped in the finest clothes the village had ever seen. Beads, polished to a high sheen, adorned his neck, and his sandals, crafted from the best cowhide, announced his every step. As he walked, whispers followed him like his own shadow. Some villagers feared his sharp tongue. Others simply disliked his towering ego. But none of this mattered to Kato, for his own opinion of himself was the only one that counted. Every morning, Kato's voice would ring out, a self-proclaimed anthem to his own greatness. "I am the smartest man in Bweyale," he would declare to anyone who would listen, and even to those who wouldn't. "Without me, this village is nothing." He'd strut through the market, his chest puffed out like a proud rooster. If a woman was selling bananas, he'd scoff. "These bananas are pitifully small. Do you expect me, the great Kato, to consume such tiny fruits?" If a man was carefully mending a clay pot, Kato would sneer, "That pot looks as weak as a newborn lamb. It will surely shatter the moment water touches it." His words were like stones, thrown carelessly, chipping away at the spirit of his neighbors. Even the village elders, men and women who had seen seasons change for decades, watched Kato with weary eyes. One evening, as the talking drum called everyone to gather around the crackling communal fire, the oldest elder, Musok, decided to speak. His voice, though aged, was firm. "Kato," he began, "a proud man builds his house without a roof. He believes it is complete, but he forgets that the rain will always come and prove him wrong." The villagers nodded in silent agreement, their faces lit by the dancing flames. Kato, however, just threw his head back and laughed, the sound echoing into the night. "You're just jealous of my strength, old man," he retorted. "Every single person in this village needs me. They just don't want to admit it." But deep down, the villagers were tired. A quiet resentment simmered beneath the surface of their polite nods. They were all waiting patiently for the day when Kato's immense pride would finally be tested by a force greater than his own ego. That day arrived sooner than anyone expected. One morning, Kato was jolted from his sleep not by the crowing of a rooster, but by the frantic sounds of shouting. People were running through the fields, their faces masks of panic. The goats were bleating in distress, and the cows were restless in their pens. "What is all this commotion?" Kato demanded, stepping out of his hut. A young boy, breathless from running, pointed a trembling finger towards the water source. The river is rising. It's swallowing the farms." Kato let out a booming laugh that was completely out of place amidst the chaos. "Is that all? You're all running around like frightened chickens because of a little water. I am Kato. I will control the river. Do not worry your simple heads." With a dismissive wave, he grabbed a long stick from the ground and marched confidently toward the riverbank, expecting the entire village to follow and witness his power. When he arrived, he saw that the situation was far more serious than he had imagined. The once gentle river had transformed into a raging beast. Brown, churning waves crashed against the land, tearing up the soil. Trees that had stood by the water for years shuddered, their roots giving way before they toppled into the angry current. The villagers stood a safe distance away, their faces etched with worry, but Kaito, undeterred, stepped forward. He raised his stick like a king's scepter. "Listen to me, river," he commanded at the top of his lungs. "I am Kato, the great man of Bweyale. Stop your madness at once." The river's only response was a furious roar as a large wave crashed near his feet. splashing muddy water all over his fine clothes and face. The crowd gasped. For a fleeting moment, Kato's confidence wavered, but he quickly forced a smile. "Do not fear," he shouted back to the onlookers. "It is merely testing my resolve. I will command it again." He stomped his foot for emphasis, but the soft, wet mud greedily swallowed his expensive sandal, and he stumbled, nearly falling into the very water he claimed to control. Whispers started to ripple through the crowd. Does he truly believe he can stop a flood with his voice? One woman murmured to her husband, "His pride has made him lose his senses," another added. Still, Kato refused to surrender. He shouted promises, threats, and commands at the churning water until his throat was raw and burning. But the river was indifferent. It did not listen. Instead, its waters swelled even higher, pouring over the banks and flooding the precious yam fields, the village's main source of food. Seeing their crops disappear, the villagers abandoned Kato and ran to salvage what little they could. Kato was left standing alone, drenched and defeated. A hot wave of shame washed over him, but he quickly smothered it with a final, desperate boast. "The river is only acting this strong today because it fears my power," he announced to the empty field. "Tomorrow it will be calm. It will bow down to me." That night, Misok, the old elder, sat by the fire, his gaze lost in the flames. He shook his head slowly. "Kato's pride," he said to those gathered around him, "is heavier than the great mountain. One day it will be the very thing that crushes him." But Kato was not there to hear these words of wisdom. He was back in his hut, meticulously polishing his beads and admiring his reflection in a pot filled with clean water, the only world where he was still in control. The very next day, a new presence arrived in Bweyale. A stranger, a tall woman with a weathered face, a prominent scar across one cheek, and eyes as sharp and piercing as an eagle's. She carried a bundle on her back and leaned heavily on a carved wooden staff. The village children, ever curious, were the first to spot her. They ran, their feet flying, to spread the news. Soon, a crowd had gathered around her. "Who are you?" they asked, their voices a mixture of curiosity and caution. The woman raised her head, her gaze sweeping over them. "I am Namazzi," she said, her voice clear and strong, "daughter of the great healer from the northern mountains. I travel from village to warn of coming danger." The word danger hung in the air. "What danger?" the villagers asked in unison, their thoughts immediately going to their flooded farms. "The land is trembling," Namazzi explained, her expression grim. "The spirits of this place are angry. The river has already shown you its power, but that is only the beginning. Soon, more trouble will come. Only a humble heart can save this village." As she spoke these words, every eye in the crowd turned to look at Kato. He, in turn, stepped forward with a conceited smile. "Then your journey is over, woman? You have found the right man. I am the greatest in this village. The spirits will surely listen to me." Namazzi's sharp eyes narrowed, studying him. "The spirits do not hear proud voices," she countered calmly. "They listen to those who know how to bend, not those who can only boast." Kato waved a dismissive hand. "Woman, you are just a traveler. You do not know my importance. Why, even the gods themselves respect me." That night, as the moon cast a silver glow over the village, Kato had a strange and terrifying dream. He saw the river transform into a monstrous snake, its scales shimmering in the moonlight. The snake hissed, its eyes glowing like hot coals. "You think you are strong, Kato?" It slithered, its voice echoing in his mind. "But pride is the food for my hunger." The giant snake lunged at him, its jaws wide, and Kato woke up with a strangled cry, his body drenched in cold sweat. He told no one of his nightmare. In the week that followed, Namaz's prophecy began to unfold. More disasters plagued Bweyale. First, a number of goats vanished without a trace overnight. Then the sky grew unnaturally dark in the middle of the day, casting an eerie twilight over the land. Strange, powerful winds whipped through the village, scattering cooking fires and tearing at the thatched roofs of the huts. The people were truly afraid now. The spirits are angry, they whispered amongst themselves. Namazzi gathered them together. A sacrifice is needed, she told them. A sacrifice of humility. Someone must bow down before the spirits and admit their weakness, asking for forgiveness. Again, all eyes fell on Kato. He just laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Never. I will never bow to anything or anyone. I am the strongest man in Bweyale. The spirits should be bowing to me. His defiance was the final straw. The children, who once watched him with a mix of awe and fear, now just feared him. His few remaining friends turned their backs on him. Kato was utterly alone, yet he stood tall, polishing his beads and muttering boasts to himself, even as the sky rumbled with storms, and the very ground seemed to shake beneath his feet. The conflict between one man's unyielding pride and the growing anger of the spirits was hurtling towards a final, dramatic conclusion, and the fate of Bweyale hung in the balance. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think will happen to Kato? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from around the world. We'll see you in the next video.